I'll put it on pause.
Thanks for coming. 7:03. So this evening, our chairperson Anna Tamel is on vacation, so I'm going to be chairing the meeting. James Laporta here. We're going to have a special permit for, let's see, SP 253. 7:03. We'll call the meeting to order. Let's see. So we have regular members. Phil West. Let's see. Keith Bodwell. And Bruce Bennett. Let's see. You're an alternate, right? So
Yes.
You could be seated for Steve Sicardi.
Okay.
Christine Gray, if you don't mind being seated for Jill Cutler.
Okay.
And Will Evans, if you could be seated for Anna Tamel.
Sure thing.
And then, let's see, so we have the public hearing SP 253 special permit for a major home business, Josh Tyson, Catherine Hosterman per section 8.16 home business at 118 College Street. Let's see, Karen, do you want to talk about the nature of this public hearing because of the noticing?
Yes, let me just get Priscilla and Michelle in. For the record, my name is Karen Nelson. I'm the land use administrator and the zoning and inland wetlands enforcement officer, and I am responsible for noticing. And I realized that the legal notice that went in the newspaper had a wrong date. The agenda was properly posted and all the letters to the abutting neighbors that Josh sent out had the proper date, time, and place, Zoom on it. But I've been doing this for a very long time. I have to admit the defect was on my part. And if I don't admit it, I put any applicant coming in here at risk for an issue. So I would rather admit the issue, ask the applicant to give permission to continue the hearing. And based on that, I'm just going to address what is in the record. Most of it was put up on the website last night. It's the application. It is the site plan that was put up last night. Backup information, the narrative, and the narrative included black and white elevations of the buildings that are being proposed. There was, as part of the site plan, there was a septic, the cover of a full-scale map, which I'm trying to get in a PDF, but a smaller copy of the septic piece. I did not have the approval from Torrington Area Health as of last night. I do as of today, and that will go up on the website. And then there were letters from abutting neighbors, Mr. Zimini and two neighbors down the street, the Scrantons, and a letter from Michelle Ship. And I think that that was pretty much what I put up on the website last night. I came into the office and anything that was received in my office before 4 o'clock yesterday was up on the website before 7 o'clock last night. So I will be asking you to consider. I talked to Josh Tyson. He is open to a special meeting in 2 weeks. That does give me time to renotice in the newspaper and get it back up on the website and let the abutting neighbors, the Ziminis, and the other 3 or 4 that Josh noticed be made aware of what is going on. And so that is basically it. There should be no testimony taken tonight. Josh is not here. And so if you want to discuss, if you have enough members that can make a meeting in 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks from tonight.
So commission members, that would be the 28th of September. Does anybody have a conflict with that date, or can we get a quorum, do you think?
Christine Gray here. That date works for me. I can make it.
What was the date again? Sorry.
28th?
Works for me, James. Bruce Bennett.
Works for me too.
That's enough.
I'm looking.
Same.
Yeah, I can do.
And
No
James,
problem.
can you make it? And by that time, Anna will be back, I believe.
Even better.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock on September 28th. So I'd ask for a motion to continue this public hearing to that date, September 28th, 7 PM.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Who was the first?
They were both.
Phil
first
can
and
be the
second.
first, I'll be the second.
There you go.
Wait, who's the first again?
Bill,
Me, Bill West.
Phil,
And who's the second? You're all talking at one
Keith
time.
Bodwell.
Keith,
Okay, Keith. Okay, the motion is to continue to Tuesday, the 28th. It will be by Zoom, obviously, and, okay, and then I'll let
any
you.
discussion?
Yes,
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so now we'll move on to our regular meeting. Let's see, we've got zoning applications.
I think you might want, yep, the zoning applications are listed at the end of the agenda. I added two, but I would ask that you additions to the agenda would be the two zoning permits and addressing the fact that we are not having a executive session. So the zoning permits were not up on the website, so you technically should make a motion to add those to the agenda.
Karen, can you check the waiting room also?
Oh, there is Josh. Okay.
Thanks.
So
Oh.
Josh, we did continue the public hearing for the 28th of September. And we didn't take any testimony this evening, so sorry if, sorry about the apologies for the mix up with the date, and hopefully we can still keep that on schedule, but we've probably moved on, so we can't discuss the application till the 28th. So I hope that's okay with you folks. Yeah, acknowledged.
Acknowledge. It's all good.
So, and then I'll hear a motion to amend the agenda. Does anybody,
I'll move to amend the agenda to add those two zoning permits.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So Karen, did you want to talk about those zoning permits first?
Yes, I can do that. They basically are both, the Kless Dobson is an in-ground pool. The permit has been approved. Mark Filato and Poon, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce Poon's last name, is a 20-foot by 28-foot non-residential accessory structure on 87 Sharon Jefferson Turnpike, and that has been approved as well. So,
Okay.
and then I will take up some other things under my staff report. But
Okay, let's see, additions. So the approval of minutes, July 13th. Anybody, I reviewed them. Anybody else? Were you able to review any of those minutes? Any comments?
no comments, Christine Gray.
so you need a motion to approve.
I motion to approve the minutes of July 13th and August 10th. As
August
written.
10th, everybody else looked at that as well? Or-
Yep.
Okay.
I'll
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New applications,
None.
like none. And our pending applications, SP 253, that's going to be continued to the 28th. On to staff reports, Karen.
I wanted to talk about the fact that we really need to amend our zoning permits. Actually, Keith Bodwell and I had a conversation about what our zoning permit really addresses at this point in time. Things have kind of changed in terms of businesses and minor business and major businesses and, special permits, et cetera, et cetera. So I am going to be working on that. I'm going to bring those forms back. Also, the special permit form. I think we need to have a little bit more information and a little bit more clarity on it, and also reference the appropriate sections for special permits. And the other piece that I think we should talk about is at our special meeting in 2 weeks, when we have some time for a workshop meeting, is to address some of the changes that are coming down, that are now officially in part of the statutes, and some of those address just the issue of the worst character of the neighborhood. And the other piece is the as of right for the first accessory apartment, so that our very progressive regulations that allow a detached accessory apartment by special permit would mean that it could be as of right. And I have already had my first discussion with somebody looking to move to town and construct an accessory apartment, and the process. And they were very pleasantly surprised to hear that the process has actually been will be made a little bit more simple. So I think those are some of the things that we can talk about in 2 weeks, and get some guidance as to what you would like, how you would like me to address people calling in, and what their expectations can be. So that is pretty much what I have to say, but I do have a lot of forms to revise, and some things that I'm going to bring to the commission and ask for your advice. So that if anybody questions commission members as to these forms, and maybe some updated requests for additional site information, if that's we're all going to have to defend that if we ask for it. So.
And are you envisioning that to be able, do you want to bring any ideas you have about the form at the next regular meeting, or?
We could wait till the next regular meeting if we have a continued public hearing, and we have a lot of input. I don't think we want to start talking about it at 9 o'clock. So.
Well, either way.
No, we don't want to start at 9 o'clock.
Sharon, are we going to have, since there's a number of things that we have to deal with, are we going to have other meetings to be able to deal with these things? Because I noticed that you were just talking about the fact that the secondary apartments is going to be made easier, but isn't there an option to be able to opt out of that? And isn't that something that has to be decided before we move forward with that and start talking to people about it? So are we going to be able to try to do this at our normal meetings, or are we going to?
I think we have to start opening the conversation as to where, where we're starting to head, because those questions are going to come up quickly, because and we can discuss it at, in 2 weeks or at our next regular meeting. Yeah.
So, because I know that, so Bruce and I were both in the Democratic Town Committee meeting where we had,
Right.
where we had Maria Horn speaking about this bill to people. And she talked about both these things, the detached, or the not detached, but she talked about accessory apartments, and she talked about character, using the word basically character in the bylaws. So while we were having that meeting, I looked up in our regulations, rather, not bylaws, wrong meeting. And we use character as in that way about 19 times in our regulations. So there's probably, I think that attacking these two things, not probably at the same meeting, but at two separate meetings, so we can focus in on each of these things separately, would be a better way to go about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, also Anna, by the way, Anna, I believe, has approached the Conservation Commission and has asked them for their input into what different language can be used in that area. So, I mean, that's something that should be brought in too as well when we discuss this.
I don't know which one's going to be easier. or harder, but there's probably a fair amount of discussion around both of those two things.
Right.
And there's probably other things in that new regulations from the state that we need to address also, but I think these are the ones that definitely stand out the most.
That's why I was wondering if we shouldn't, have more meetings. I know that's not fun for anybody, but it seems as though these things are something that we need to jump on pretty quickly.
Can we
Well, I
get to the actual meeting first and then?
One of the things we want to keep in mind is, it depends on how many other things are happening in the background that are going to warrant our attention more immediately. Obviously, we have this special permit application we need to take care of. But then after that, if there aren't a lot of other new applications or things that are going to take the commission's attention, then certainly I'm not sure if it warrants having a special meeting or if we can discuss this at our next regularly scheduled meeting. So I do agree with you that those things should be addressed ASAP. And I think I would kind of defer to Karen to see how many other things are on the docket. And maybe in our 2 weeks' time, we can also discuss whether it's worth trying to get another special meeting together, or if we can put this on our next regularly scheduled meeting to discuss.
Is there ever a situation where several, 2, 3 of the board members, commission members get together to be able to kind of pre-discuss this, or in order to be able to kind of present something to the group as a whole? Or is that not something that's allowed? Karen, I know there's rules and regulations about all these things.
Well, to be very honest, in the past, we have had P&Z subcommittees. We had one, I want to say it might have had to do with accessory apartments at one point. I think we had a second one on agriculture.
The farm
James,
regs.
we're on that with Anna and
Yep. Yeah, very common. It just needs to be noticed properly so that you don't want to have informal meetings. So as soon as, commission members are meeting outside of this formal meeting place, you really shouldn't be discussing P&Z matters.
Yeah. If there's a meeting, a subcommittee meeting, I technically am the one that is responsible for posting it within proper statutory times and actually putting it up on the website. The other pieces in the past subcommittee meetings have been in person. So these would have to be probably Zoom meetings, but it would be a workshop meeting in which there is no public comment. Unless it was specifically allowed. In the past, workshop meetings have not allowed public comment because it's a small quorum of a subcommittee that is not taking testimony from the public. So, but
Well-
if that could be a discussion for next month, if or in the next couple of weeks, if certain committee member or commission members would like to step up to some sorts of subcommittees and take this on and be able to bring that back to the commission at large. That has worked in the past and it's could be a good idea, but it's a commitment on everybody's part. I mean, it means usually an extra meeting or 2 a month.
And one thing certainly that would be welcome, Bruce, if you want to, feel free to do a little legwork on your own to see if there's information that you think the commission might enjoy hearing, and then just bring that to the commission. And then we can also discuss if it seems like there's a lot to deal with, then yes, let's think of a subcommittee to go and tackle that issue. I think would be
Okay, I think that works. Yeah, okay.
so.
So let's discuss how we want to attack this at the next meeting.
Yeah, and as I say, just like with Bruce, if you want to, if there's other information that you can gather and bring it to the table for the next meeting, all the better.
Okay, so that would be the next regular meeting, right? Not the
I'm
28th?
open to either. I'm not sure how involved the special permit's going to be. And I would kind of defer to Karen to say, do you want to try to put?
We can always put it on the agenda, and if the public hearing goes to, long, then you can just defer it to the next meeting. It's not a big You can put everything on the agenda, and if you run out of time, you can just pass on it and move on. Yeah.
Okay,
Let's see, anything else, Karen?
The only thing I was going to address is correspondence and communications and notification of the COG Fifth Thursday meeting. I obviously will be there because I am participating as in my other job from the Northwest Conservation District. My young cohort, Kelsey Sudol, who works with Sean Hayden on the Lake Warmont Task Force, and Sean Hayden would be part of the discussion about lake health and LID. It's been being brought forth actually by Jamie Fisher from White Memorial because of the concerns as to Bantam Lake. Sean and Kelsey are obviously Lake Warmont. Cream Hill Lake is a viable and beautiful lake in the town of Cornwall, and there are discussions about the need to take steps to make people understand what lake health is and the long-term effects of lack of handling stormwater and properties around the lake that can cause them to deteriorate, which has a trickle-down effect, which will be discussed by me at that meeting. So I would hope to see some members from Cornwall come. I always say that, and I never have to worry about it. We usually have more than the one that is needed to be there, so you're all welcome.
What time are those meetings at, Karen?
It starts at 6:30, I believe, on the fifth Thursday, so it'd be 2 nights after this meeting. Yeah,
And is that Zoom or in person or both?
I believe it's in Zoom. That's a good question. I'm not sure which way it's going to go. The last fifth Thursday meeting that was at the White Barn was in person with no Zoom. It could be, based on what is going on, it could possibly be a hybrid meeting. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm looking at their website now. It does say via Zoom, 7 p.m. to 8:30.
Okay, 7 p.m. Okay. So so if they've decided to do that, then, and the White Barn is pretty spacious, but the office at the COG is not, so.
Thank you. And any other business to come before the commission?
Mr. Ridgway, do you have anything? Gordon?
Just two things to consider, and I think it would be good to sort of look at the things coming down the road. There is the state mandated housing plan is set for a draft hearing on October 20th. And there will be a lot of recommendations there as far as accessory apartments. So that group is tackling the whole issue of accessory apartments as far as housing opportunities. Another item that's out there that some towns are looking at now, and we have about a year to deal with, is the issue of cannabis sales allowed or not, or moratorium until we figure out what we're doing in town. So that's another thing that's out there. So there are plenty of little, in addition to your regular business, there are these, I would say, 3 issues. And again, there's probably some things that will come out of that housing group that will also may spur people's imagination or give you more stuff to do as far as some inconsistencies between the regulations of accessory apartments and regular apartments as far as parking requirements and some other stuff. So there's certainly plenty to do, and it'd be good to map some of these things out. And I would agree that it may be time as we go into a fall season to adopt a regular workshop mode for a second meeting in addition to your regular meeting. So and tackle these things one at a time or whatever. But again, have some time on them, but it would be good to really work on it this fall and winter. Thank
Gordon,
you.
can I quick ask a question based on what you're seeing? Is there a chance that we're going to be going to a hybrid meeting? Is your recommendation to stay Zoom going into the winter, into the fall months?
Oh, I think everything's pointing towards Zoom at this point. We've actually closed the town hall because of a bit of a COVID case with a visitor. So I think for now we're, unless there's this compelling reason to do something else, we're being very prudent and cautious. We have our COVID work group tomorrow, but I think the emphasis will be on doing more Zoom, which I understand has its limitations and its drawbacks. But I think, from a safety standpoint, we haven't seen the peak yet of this latest bit. Connecticut's in better shape than a lot of places, but we want to stay in that good condition. So that's the thought. I mean, if there's committee thoughts of everybody wants to see each other, that's something else. But they're all saying the more time we spend in time, the more caseload's going to go up. So, and I think it is convenient in some ways for people that to make these in some ways easier than if they have to trudge down to sit at the library for hours. So, but anyway, put that on your agenda as far as format. But it's certainly I think it's our recommendation from our COVID group that as much work gets done remotely as possible, because you're all important people, and it's important that we just be able to keep things functioning the best we can. And sometimes that's going to require us to do things remotely and indirectly as much as possible, especially if we can't do it outside.
Thank you, Gordon. From a personal viewpoint, I thank you for putting the safety of town hall employees up front and making us feel that you are really there for our protection. And it is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So then in conclusion, Karen, you could add the items we discussed to the agenda on the 28th, as well as that special permit. And then if we have time to go over them, that would be great. And if not, we'll move those items to the regularly scheduled meeting. So people could give that some thought, and also think about if we do want to have some other workshop-ish type of meetings moving into the fall, a potential, what dates might work for you. And I would propose that if we are going to do that, to try to keep those workshop meetings to an hour and try to be efficient with them so we don't get burned out as a commission if we're going to do that again. It seems like we have, been doing a lot of workshop stuff over the last few years with the town plan. A lot of the commission members weren't necessarily part of that, but that is a risk that you don't want to burn out members by having too many meetings. So if we can keep them efficient and move forward, I think that would be welcome. That would be my only caveat. Yeah, Phil.
Yeah, and I definitely want to look at the idea of potentially having a couple subcommittees to do that, so that maybe we don't have to have a meeting about every, we don't have to do all of them, all of us, and we can sort of put together some pieces and make, group meetings a little more efficient.
Yep, great. So yeah, let's discuss that at our, if Karen can put that on the agenda, we'll talk about it and do that next time.
Okay.
All right. And a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you, James.
Yeah.
Yeah, James.
Thank you
Good
all.
night.
Bye.
Good night, folks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Jim.